In this lecture, we will discuss about gender neutrality. So, the very introduction, then those laws and man's legal rights. As we found, the man's legal right was overlooked in India, in particularly relating to family laws and custody disputes, and the very provisions relating to Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code and the very domestic violence laws relating to National Report of National Family Health Survey, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, then how man's legal right was overlooked under the dowry and false accusation, and the very report of the data of the National Crime Bureau show gender neutrality seeks to ensure that laws and policies protect all genders equally. While Indian laws are often framed with neutrality in mind, their implementation tends to favor one gender over the other. The gender neutrality requires an unbiased legal system that ensures equal protection and fair treatment for all, regardless of their gender. So, we found under the family law and the custody disputes, the overlooking of man's legal rights. So, in family law, especially in divorce proceedings, judgments are frequently made in favor of women. While this is understandable, as many women may lack the means to support themselves and require maintenance, it is not always justified as per the provisions under Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure of 1973, which provides for order for maintenance of wives, children, and parents. And this section helps women who are mistreated by their husbands or in-laws to seek financial support. However, increasing number of cases suggest either the allegations are false or the financial demands are excessive, even when women are financially independent. This undermines the genuine cases and harms man's legal rights, forcing them to pay high maintenance even when they are financially struggling and without any relief. In case of custody of children, in custody battle, mothers are usually favored over fathers. Fathers must prove they are fit for child care to gain custody. Legally, under Section 6 of the Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act 1956, the father is considered as the natural guardian unless declared unfit. However, in practice, mothers are more often granted custody of children even when fathers are capable and willing. And as relating to domestic violence, laws against women is a significant issue in India, as according to the National Family Health Survey reports conducted by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, almost 31.8% of ever married women ages in between the age group of 15 to 49 experienced intimate partner violence, which includes emotional, physical, or sexual abuse of women. 29 0.3% of married women reported experiencing domestic or sexual violence. So to address this, the government of India introduced the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, safeguarding rights as guaranteed under the Constitution of India, such as Article 14, Article 15, and Article 21. The judiciary has also taken active steps in addressing such violence. However, domestic violence against men is often overlooked. A study of 1,000 married men between the age group of 21 to 49 in rural Haryana, where it found that 52.4% experienced some form of violence in their lifetime, and 51.6% faced emotional abuse, and even 6% of men facing physical abuse, and 0.4% of men or facing sexual abuse. So, in the 12 months prior to the survey, 10.5% of men reported violence, including 2.5% who experienced physical abuse. It also found that 29 out of 1,000 married men experienced spousal physical violence during the Y states. For example, in Sikkim, 2 out of 1,000, and in case of Tamil Nadu, it is around 90 out of 1,000. While women are statistically more affected, justice should be extended equally to all, regardless of their gender. So, another piece of legislation and the area where we found overlooking of man's legal right is relating to dowry and false accusation. Dowry refers to money or property given by a bride's family to the groom at the time of marriage, while the practice itself is not illegal. Violence or harassment over unsatisfactory dowry demand is a serious crime. So, the very report of National Crime Records Bureau, the data which provided that there were 6,589 dowry death cases, and that is 18 per day, and where we found the very top states relating to dowry, death and violence is Uttar Pradesh with 2,273 cases, while Bihar is having 1,032 cases and Madhya Pradesh is having 596 cases. So there were almost 1,22,149 cases of cruelty for dowry as the very data provided by the National Crime Records Bureau. So to combat this, several laws existed in India, including the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961, then Section 302B and Section 354 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Section 117 of the Bharatiya Shakya Abhiniyam. So, also the very report submitted by the Save India Family Foundation, and that is an non-governmental organization which reports provides that 20% of cases filed under Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code, but now it is inserted under the new provisions as under Section 85 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita and are false. Thousands of men have complained of being threatened with false dowry charges by their in-laws. These issues highlight the urgent need for gender-neutral laws and equal treatment in legal protections. So now we will discuss regarding men's legal right and mental health as provided by the National Mental Health Survey and the very report of the National Crime Reports Bureau. So in India, mental health is not taken as a major issue according to the National Mental Health Survey. 10 to 15% of adults are suffering from mental health disorders. Individuals suffering from mental issues are eventually treated as a topic of fun in India. In rural areas, 70 to 85% of individuals affected by mental health problems are not receiving proper care and attention. If we talk about suicide rates, then in the particular year 2022, India recorded 171,000 suicides, which is a 4% increase from the previous year 2021. The national rate is 12.4% in every 1 lakh, the highest ever in the world. The leading cause of death among youth aged between 15 to 29 is suicide, responsible for 35% of all recorded suicides. If we further divide the data, medical students are particularly vulnerable. As recently in the last 6 months in India, most of the pursuing medical students are in the very state of Rajasthan, in particularly in the city of Kota. Most of the pursuing MBBS aspirants are committing suicide. There is 28% of undergraduates and 15% of postgraduates as diagnosed with 16% undergraduate and 30% postgraduates reporting suicidal thoughts. So now we'll discuss relating to the very human resource and infrastructure, and in that connection we'll discuss the very recommendations made by the World Health Organization. So, mental health is an issue where the majority of people don't focus. Due to ignorance, there is a high percentage of suicidal cases and an increase in diagnosed mental health issues. Psychiatrists who are responsible for treating people suffering from mental health issues number only 0.75% out of 1 lakh such cases in India. So, according to the World Health Organization, the recommendation is a minimum of 3% out of 1 lakh. Other professionals like clinical psychologists, social workers, and psychiatric nurses are even more underrepresented. To meet the demand, India needs tens of thousands of such psychiatrists, psychologists of having clinical experience and psychiatric nurses. Infrastructure is in worse condition in India as India spends only 0.05 of the GDP on mental health care compared to high income countries, those who spend almost 5% or more on particularly relating to mental health care. So there are only 1 or 1.5 beds per 1 lakh patients for psychiatric patients. This highlights the poor state and shortfalls of the mental health care infrastructure in India. So now we'll discuss regarding the very barriers and stress factors. So regarding mental health and man in India. Now this is the condition of India in mental health. If we talk about the conditions of men, then in India there are less likely to seek help for mental health issues due to patriarchal expectations and stigma around vulnerability. The ideals of masculinity demand emotional suppression and success in finance, leading to mental distress. Men accounts for about 70% of suicide deaths in India according to the National Crime Records Bureau. 2022 report there were 1,18,979 suicide cases among men out of 1,64,033 cases. The affected age group is around 15 to 18 to 45 years age. Major causes of suicides include unemployment, financial problems, family issues, and any sort of addiction. So, according to the National Mental Health Survey, nearly 1 in 10 individuals in India suffer from mental disorders. The percentage of men is around 13.9%, which is strictly higher than women who suffer 13.1% for substance use of disorders. Disorders include depression, anxiety, alcohol use disorders, and bipolar affective disorders. So the very barriers to mental health access for men that we found, as mentioned before, Indian men are less likely to seek help for mental issues. They are less likely to consult therapist or psychiatrist. They prefer self-reliance and there is fear of judgment. The lack of awareness also plays a huge role according to the World Health Organization. There should be at least 3 psychiatrists for 1 lakh people. But in India there are only 0.75 psychiatrists for 1 lakh people. As we found the very stress factors such as relating to unemployment, marital and family issues. So, The men are primary source of earning in Indian household is always men. If men fail to find a job or remain unemployed for a long time, there can be economic failure in the household impacting their self-growth. Marital family issues, preference to women leads to the violation of men's legal rights. There are significant increases in cases like child custody and domestic violence accusations, which indirectly impact man's mental well-being. So, in that case, at the present scenario, we found the developments made in particularly by the government of India and the government of the foreign provinces or states and the non-governmental organization taking some important steps. So, among that, one is telemanus, and that telemanus, which was launched by Government of India as a mental health support helpline which is free and available all the hours of a day. Then another mental app that is Mind Peers, which and the role of NGOs. So the use of platforms like Mind Peers, VSA, etc. help individual to heal. And in that regard, the non-governmental organizations, the several NGOs like the Man Company and Men Against Violence and Abuse, they promote mental health awareness for men. And as such, relating to legal recognition of male victims in other areas other than family laws and mental issues, there are other fields where men suffer but do not get any type of relief. And such legislations that relates to under the head that we would like to discuss, one is male victims under sexual harassment and the very reports of the INBA report, the Center for Civil Society report and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanghita and female victims. So, according to the national crime records, and as we found, there are 400 plus cases of sexual harassment at work each year since 2018. There were 419 cases in 2022 itself, with top states being Himachal Pradesh with 97 cases of sexual harassment, and Kerala was having 83 number of sexual harassment, while Maharashtra was having 46 cases of sexual harassment at workplace, and Karnataka around 43 cases of sexual harassment at workplaces. So, if we come to male victims, then according to the Indian National Bar Association report, 22% of sexual harassment cases involve male victims. The Economic Times survey report of 2022 and 23 provides that 19% of men across 7 metros reported workplace sexual misconduct. The Center for Civil Society in its 2023 report provided that approximately 18% of adult men report being forced or coerced into conjugal relations. Then, if we discuss about the legal remedies, then there are many laws to protect women's rights, but they do not cover men. For example, the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013 applies only to women excluding male victims. As regarding Section 73 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita in 2023, which was enacted, the very corresponding provisions as under Section 354A of the Indian Penal Code focuses only on female victims, and all other sections of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, as we would like to discuss relating to those are Section 74 relating to assault or use of criminal force to women, Section 75 and 76 regarding stalking focus only on women or female victims, which exclude male victims. And in another portion that is relating to rape and sexual violence, one of the major issues in India forces us to question where civilization is heading. Is there a lack of education or moral education? That issue is rape and sexual violence, and according to the National Crime Report Bureau of 2022, 31,982 rape cases were filed since 2018. The figures have hovered around 31,000 of such cases. There is no age where from a child of 4 months to an 80-year-old senior citizen all have been victims. These figures represent registered cases only. Many more remain unregistered due to fear of social rejection, coercion, or shame. The conviction rate is only 27 to 28%, as we found from the data for the year 2018 to 2022. Even custody is not safe, as from the very report of 2017 to 2022, as 275 custodial rape cases were registered. So, in terms of those steps taken, the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013, the Nirbhaya Act introduced stricter punishment post 2012 for crimes including rape, stalking, and workplace harassment as Section 375 of Indian Penal Code, which is now we found under Section 63 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, defines rape as an act committed by a man against a woman without her consent, while Section 64 to Section 66 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita provide for punishment for rape. Even children's rights below 18 years are protected under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. However, there are no specific rights for male victims. Males are generally considered as the predators not victims. The National Commission for Women study in 2022 noted that 1.4% of Indian men reported experiencing sexual harassment. Around 3,000 cases were filed in between from 2021. Around the number is 2,500 cases. Compared to other countries, India lacks gender neutral laws as we found in United States of America or in United Kingdom and in other countries like Canada, South Africa and Australia. So there are many biases against men. So that we found under the dowry harassment provision as provided under Section 80 of the Bharatiya न्याय Samhita, which penalizes cruelty by husband or relatives toward women. As the bias, whole family may be arrested without proper investigation, no parallel protection for men from false accusation, and even under the Domestic Violence Act 2005, which meant to protect women from domestic abuse. The very bias is that men are excluded as victims, no complaints can be filed, while the National Crime Report Bureau in 2014 reported that men also suffer abuse, but there is no statutory recognition. Then relating to maintenance and alimony were found supports wives and children parents financially. But the very best, even well qualified or voluntarily unemployed women can claim maintenance. Husbands are presumed to be sole providers. Besides that, we found bias under the child custody laws. While the father is also a natural guardian, custody generally goes to the mother. So the very bias is that fathers are reduced to mere visiting parents. And if we analyze another important sections of the sexual harassment laws that was enacted in 2013 under Section 73 of the Bharatiya न्याय Samhita, which only protect women. So the bias is that no legal remedy exists for male victims, and in connection to rape and sexual assault as provided under Section 63 of the Bharatiya न्याय Samhita, which defines the crime as being committed by a man against a woman. So the very bias is that no acknowledgement of male victims are. So compared to gender neutral laws in countries like United States of America, United Kingdom and Australia, Canada, Indian laws still reflect gender specific definitions. This contributes to a rise in false cases. Judges have acknowledged misuse of laws, even in the criminal justice system. Bias persists. Police and courts often presume guilt when a female complaint is involved. There is a lack of legal protection for men who are falsely accused due to fear of social stigma, ridicule, or limited legal avenues. Men rarely file complaints. There are national and state women's commissions and government bodies to protect women's rights. However, there is no such statutory authority for men. There is no official data collections, policy suggestions, or advocacy for crimes against men. Men have no representation or systematic recognition of their rights. So, in our next lecture, we'll discuss regarding the laws and bias against men as found from the reports of the non-governmental organizations, then the very challenges and the recommendations and suggestions, and finally we will conclude our discussion on gender neutrality.